I, a teen female, have a young teen sister. I currently work and study simultaneously and make around 5 to 600 euros per month, and 250 of that goes to my one-bedroom apartment. I pay for electricity, Wi-Fi, food, etc. And saved up some money from my paycheck these past 2 months to buy her something nice. She had requested this perfume from Sephora, which costs around 80 euros, this makeup kit from Benefit which retails for about 40, and many more things in that price range. The money I saved was in my bank account, but sadly I had a leak in my kitchen and the entire room was basically flooded, which meant I had to pay for cleaning and installing a new pipe in the kitchen so the water wouldn't leak again, and I had to cut back on I had promised her I would try to get her some things off her wish list, but now I couldn't. Instead, I went to the beauty supply store and got her this big makeup kit the size of a microwave, heck even bigger, filled with normally priced makeup that retails for about 60 to 70 euros. It includes foundation, eyeshadow, lip gloss, etc. It looks like one of those makeup kits that artists use, and it's fairly priced but doesn't include high-end products. On Christmas Day my sister saw the big present and got fairly excited. To be exact, my brother thought it was a PS4. That's how big the makeup kit is. Once she opened it she didn't know how to react, but smiled and thanked me. She continued to open the rest and saw that it was the only thing I had gotten her. She immediately began to lash out and tell me that I promised to get her the certain things off her wish list. I tried to explain that I couldn't afford it due to my kitchen practically leaking, but she said I shouldn't have promised her anything she wanted if I couldn't go through with it. We haven't spoken since Christmas and I have to see her on New Year's. My mom said she hadn't touched my present and that since it was unopened I should take it back and save up more money to make it up to her, like treat it or something nice. She suggested either taking her to the amusement park in Denmark since it's a short train ride, or taking her out for a shopping trip or something, but I genuinely don't even think that's gonna make up for it because you need money to do those things properly. I'm just upset because I got her something for a fair price and had to cut back on things for myself and my brother to make her happy. My parents refuse Christmas presents from us, so I didn't spend on them. I don't know, I understand I promised her, but I just wasn't doing well financially and barely had the money for anything and thought she would like it, but she didn't. She hasn't spoken to me ever since and it's messing with me, so am I the idiot? My mom knows about the repairs and I assume she told her. I didn't ask for anything for Christmas since I hate receiving gifts. You are not the idiot, your sister is. She knows that you've been having trouble financially and she gets mad that you didn't get a makeup thingy or whatever. The thing is, I think that you're a great big sister because you still bought her something along the lines of what she asked for. If my brothers had issues with money and they bought me so much as a 20-cent candy bar, I would love it. No, her sister's not the idiot either. She's a very young teen. If someone is going to be the idiot in this story, it has to be the parents. They have not taught the youngest daughter that stuff happens in life, and her sister wasn't mean to her. She promised to try to get her what she wanted, and even if she did promise, there are higher priorities in life. You should make it up to her. That's laughably entitled, not just on your sister's part, but on your mother's. You had a literal emergency to take care of. Obviously your funds would go toward that before anyone's Christmas present. In your shoes I would return it as demanded, keep the money for my own needs and never buy another gift for someone so spoiled and ungrateful. You are the idiot for making a promise you couldn't keep. I understand that things happen, but you should always have emergency money aside and not use your only savings for presents. More importantly, you allowed your sister to think that she was getting those gifts and never bothered to explain what happened to your apartment. So obviously you set her up for disappointment, and I think you should do a little research to ensure that your landlord isn't responsible for your repairs. There are a lot of bad landlords out there. You might even be able to sue him for the repairs to your leak and also the previous repair. Finally, take 30 seconds to Google your situation before paying for more repairs to your apartment. Your landlord's been cheating you unless you own this flat, and you probably don't at age 18. My parents always wanted grandchildren and my brother and I wanted children, but both of us faced fertility issues with our respective partners. My wife and I eventually decided to look for help. Our parents are old-fashioned, but they tried to be happy for us. My brother also tried. His wife did not. We found a willing friend and now have a son, kindergartner. Sister-in-law went crazy. She spent months blasting all of us about how horrible we were, that we supported all sorts of terrible practices because we were doing this, etc. She refused to go to our baby shower or see us in the hospital, but she did send a new mom kit meant for our friend with things to help a pregnant person recover from childbirth. My brother apologized on her behalf, but said he couldn't change her mind. A few months later, my brother and his wife announced the spontaneous pregnancy after more than 5 years of trying. Our parents were thrilled. So were we. We were willing to put it all behind us. They had a daughter, toddler, which only intensified her views. She refused to bring the baby over for holidays or to meet her cousin because she refused to have her daughter raised to view women as objects. Years later, she softened to have our parents around without us at least. My parents want the whole family together again. She's agreed to a compromise that she's willing to do holidays and family outings as long as we never tell the children that our friend carried our son. Our parents think we should do this because she has a point and they were always uneasy with it. I don't agree. This isn't some shameful secret. We didn't do anything wrong. My wife is adamant that we shouldn't but wants her son to have a cousin. My parents are calling me as much as I'll answer to beg me to consider. My brother wants the tension to stop and isn't going to fight with her anymore. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your sister-in-law could just mind her business or screw right off. I guarantee lying to your child about their origins will cause a divide in that relationship. Who's more important? Sister-in-law and her precious views, or building an honest and open relationship with your child? Children survive without cousin relationships and they thrive better without people who don't like their existence because it came about differently. Sister-in-law is nuts. The truth is likely to tear the family apart and sister-in-law will blame you promptly. Since no one wants to stand up to her, do not expect support. Sad, sad situation. Honestly, if someone is objectifying women, it's your sister-in-law. A woman can do whatever she wants with her own body. Your friend was a willing, consenting adult, and the fact that your sister-in-law intends to tell her how to handle her own body is gross. Agree. The truth is that the sister-in-law is the one tearing the family apart and dragging the kids through this muck. The situation is so sad. The sister-in-law is basically preventing 8 people from being a family. I'd pull your bro aside and ask him that she keeps these thoughts to herself going forward. Everybody knows what she thinks. She can stop bringing it up. I would be worried that your kid is getting less than vibes from sister-in-law. I, 27 female, have been married to my husband, 27, for 5 years, together for 6 years. We met in college when we were 21 and dated for 8 months before he asked me to marry him and I said yes. 4 months later, we were married on our 1-year dating anniversary. I have never met his parents. For the first 6 months of our relationship, he would talk about them all the time, how they were great parents, how I was going to love them and they were going to love me, and all of that. And then, all of a sudden, he told me he wasn't on speaking terms with them anymore. I was very confused at the time and tried to get him to talk about it, but no such luck. He just told me they had a fight. It wasn't something he could forgive and that was that. I met most of his family at the wedding or during the preparations for it. I truly adore them. We were spending Christmas with his paternal grandparents. His parents were his mother's parents, I think, when his cousin accidentally let slip why my husband fought with his parents. He told them he wanted to marry me. They accused me of being a gold digger with more polite wording. My husband has confirmed this. My husband's family does have a lot of money, the generational kind of wealth, and we did the whole thing, meeting, getting engaged, getting married quite quickly to be fair to his parents. But the thing is, my family has more money than his family, and hubby knew it too. I would be less than stellar gold digger if that was my intent. So, upon learning what happened, I thought it was amusing. Never in my life have I been accused of trying to social climb, lol. Maybe if I had known at the time, I would have been offended, but today I just find it funny. I told my husband he should contact his parents and try to mend their relationship. They were just worried for his sake. Well, I'm truly grateful he stuck by me and defended me so strongly. There's no need for that anymore. He didn't want to hear it. At this point, I was a little bit exasperated. His parents were worried and had no way of knowing better. I told him it was silly to stay no contact with them after all this time for such a small offense. My honor has already recovered from learning what they said. Well, he was upset about that last bit, saying it was silly. Things have gotten back to normal since we last talked about it, yesterday morning. But I'm wondering, am I the idiot? Should I apologize? I just think it makes no sense to throw away such a great parental relationship for something about me that I'm not even bothered with. You are the idiot, really gently. I know with the distance of time, it doesn't seem like a big deal to you, but you forget a few things. He still hasn't told you the whole story. People don't cut off their parents for years because of one little remark. They cut off their parents because that remark was the last straw. There's more to this. I think you should apologize for minimizing his experience and say that from now on, however he wants to manage his parents, you're on his side. Well, here's a question for you. If you didn't come from wealth and they treated you as a gold digger, do you actually think that you'd be laughing this off as no big deal? At the end of the day, whatever happened was enough that a guy who previously had a close relationship with his parents decided he wanted to go no contact. This generally isn't a decision made lightly. Is your husband the sort of person who cuts people off willy-nilly? So, yeah, you are the idiot for telling him it's silly and a small offense. Clearly, it wasn't to him. No, this is not a joke. A lot of people think I was very harsh, but I think I can't be expected to be a saint. I, 27 female, was having dinner with my best friend, Kit, his new girlfriend, Lola, Kit's brother, Paul, and a few of our other friends. Lola's one of those very, very social justice warrior types that are very out of touch with reality and irritating to talk to. In the past few times we've met, she's pinpointed how every one of us was doing something wrong. For example, I'm wrong because I wasn't too keen on looking at political stuff these days due to mental fatigue. My Paul is a problem because he's a martial arts expert, therefore culturally appropriating. You get the drift. This happened last night when we went out to dinner. We were at a fairly nice restaurant and I was excited as Paul was in town for only a few days and he's like a brother to me. I didn't want Lola there, but Kit brought her anyway. It was time to order. Lola made a huge deal of ordering vegan food and lamenting how there aren't enough vegan options. So when it was my turn to order, I said I wanted a steak. Lola looked shocked and Kit just looked defeated at me. A few of our friends smirked though. I think Paul wanted to defuse the situation, so he said he wanted steak too and asked for a rare one. I like joking with him, so I told him he might order a live cow instead of a very rare steak at this rate. He said he's so hungry he'll probably eat one. So I said, hear that, Lola? One less cow's methane fart you have to worry about. She just shot a look of pure venom at me and Kit, I think, actually had his face in his hands at this point. We somehow, I'm still amazed how, got done with dinner without any further outburst. But the actual kicker was that Kit wouldn't drive us home after this. We're roommates, but he actually asked me to take a cab while he dropped Lola home. So I got mad at him and said a few choice words. I think it was the extra glasses of wine I had, but it's evening now and I feel yesterday's hangover lipped and now I'm guilty. Paul said I should make up with Kit and that he'd talk to Kit too. As for Lola, I hope I never see her again. But since Kit lives with me, this would be difficult and I don't know what to do. Am I the idiot? Everyone's the idiot here. I'm gonna be honest, I did laugh with this, but you're acting childish. Lola should not expect that you all be vegan just because she is, but you shouldn't have made that comment if you know it's a sensitive topic for her. So you all suck. Nothing wrong with ordering a steak in front of a vegan. Petty as crap to make a big deal of it by your comments to Lola. You are the idiot for your reaction to Kit for wanting to drive his girlfriend home, whom you've treated badly instead of chauffeuring you home. Apologize to Kit and move on. It sounds like you ordered a steak on purpose to cause trouble, not that you really wanted one. I'm sure your friends are going to be finding new friends soon. How long are you supposed to be nagged and insulted for your dietary choices before you are no longer the idiot for not ignoring it? She audibly gasped and glared at you for your order. She's rude and needs to understand that not everyone will take her unnecessary commentary in stride. Not the idiot. She sucks, not for being a vegan, just for her general personality. I cannot believe I'm writing this, but I'm actually arguing about this with my boyfriend. Long story short, we've been dating for about 3 months and we always hung out at his place for one reason or another. This year for Christmas, neither of us went to visit family for logistical reasons, so we thought we'd spend the weekend together at mine. For one of the days, we purposefully planned to stay home the whole day. Ever since I was young, I always loved wearing robes at home. I have a super soft and fluffy one and I usually lay it over my at-home clothes. I basically treat my robe like it's a jacket. It's also extra nice because it's freezing where I live. The day started out fine, but after a few hours, my boyfriend kept giving me weird looks and he finally asked me to take my robe off and put on normal clothes. I asked him what he meant because we were both basically matching except for the robe. We both had on sweatpants and a sweater. I just had the extra robe. He said the robe made me look lazy and he kind of hated it. It's a totally new robe, so it's not like it was shabby. So I said no. We were at home alone, not expecting guests, and literally doing nothing except eating snacks and watching TV. I wanted to be comfortable. We ended up arguing about it, which ruined the day for me. We talked it over and he said I was an idiot for not being willing to compromise. I told him he wasn't being fair because it was me being comfortable in my own home and his only reasoning for not wanting me to wear it was that I looked lazy in it. Also, just to be clear, I don't wear the robe in public or in front of guests. Not the idiot. 3 months in and he's trying to control what you wear while in your own home no less? It's comfy clothing. You're allowed to look lazy when you're having a lazy day. I'd seriously reconsider this relationship, especially if he's giving this much of a red flag this early on. Right? This really got me. He said I was an idiot for not being willing to compromise. Compromise about what? Is OP gonna wear half a robe? Maybe a terry cloth pantsuit? A pair of starched and ironed pajamas he deems are productive looking enough for a day of lounging at home? No, he doesn't want compromise. He wants evidence that OP will give in to his wants and whims without asking questions or voicing opinions. This is very a housewife must have a dress and makeup on all day in case someone comes to call, and so her husband will literally never see her with her makeup off. Exactly. Some things you need to come to a compromise on and others one person is just plain wrong and needs to sit down and shut up. A lot of people controlling idiots like to throw around the compromise flag because it sounds reasonable and mature. In reality, it's a power play. It's your home. He's a guest. He has no reason to boss you around. If he thinks you look lazy in a robe, I can't imagine what he's going to think on the days you're in pajamas, no makeup and just relaxing. The good thing is that it's only been 3 months. Dump him and move on. Don't stay with someone like him. He's showing you what he's like and My family is from South Asia, but we live in the States. My parents loved my older brother and tolerated me. They expected me to stay home and care for them and my brother. That wasn't for me. So I got a partial scholarship to a state school and moved out. I worked the 4 years of my undergrad and was fortunate enough to get a full scholarship for my after degree. So I graduated from university with only a small debt and 2 degrees. I found a career that I enjoy and a husband who loves me. My parents paid for my brother's education and he did very well for himself, but he's chosen to have 5 children and they all go to private schools and have all kinds of extracurricular activities. And his wife is a stay-at-home mom, even though they have a nanny. I know 5 young children would be difficult to manage. I'm just saying that she has a degree as well, but they have chosen to be a one-income household. We are expecting our first child. We waited a few years before deciding to start our family. We will stop it too. And my husband will get a vasectomy afterward. We're very much in agreement about our future. My parents, however, have decided that they're going to sell their home and come live with us. We have a large property with an in-law suite in a high cost of living city on the West Coast. I told my husband I didn't want them living with us and he concurred. So I told them no. They said that they had already listed their home and that a dutiful daughter would take care of her parents in their old age. So I said if they gave me all the money from selling their home, I would find them a lovely retirement home where they could live and that I'd pay the bills until they passed away. They didn't like that idea very much. They called me an ungrateful child and said that it was expected of me. I sent them a check for 1 year's rent, food, utilities, and sundries. I said I moved out 1 year after I turned 18 and that they were responsible for me up to that point. I told them not to contact me again without going through my lawyer. I've been playing whack-a-mole, blocking all of their attempts to reach me. And all the family members, both in the States and back home, are calling me an idiot. Finally, my brother contacted me and said I was making the family look bad by not taking them in. So I gave him the choice of taking them in himself or never bringing it up again to me, or I would be going no contact with him as well. So was I too harsh? And does that make me an idiot? I should probably add that they disapproved of me marrying a person not from their culture and religion, so they didn't contribute to our wedding, even though they did attend. Not the idiot. I'm very impressed with the hardline boundaries you set up so quickly, and I have a feeling you'll have no problem keeping them. As to the rest of the family, you've stated that they're welcome to open up their homes and/or wallets and house them if they feel so strongly about the family image. Seriously impressed. Oh no, the family members don't want the responsibility of taking in the parents. They just want to be able to tell OP what to do in classic entitled fashion. It's refreshing to read about someone who respects themselves and doesn't roll over to be walked on. The golden child needs to shut up and make room for mommy and daddy. Your parents don't get to treat you like your only existence is to serve them. Your parents had no problem not supporting you, but somehow expected the world from you without even asking. It's mind-boggling that they would just assume they would move in with you. Your parents should use the money from the sale of the home to build a suite on your brother's house, and then everyone should be happy. But don't be surprised if they just show up and try to force this. I don't think anyone should just tell you they're moving in and you're going to take care of them, parents or otherwise. The fact that they approached this the way they did foreshadows how they would disrespect any boundaries you have in your home. A dutiful daughter? Ha! Well, if they'd been more dutiful to their daughter, they might have had a different outcome. Daughters are less valuable because the son looks after the parents in old age. The daughter's expected to look after her husband's parents, traditionally. So I'm wondering why the brother wasn't the first choice. Or maybe he refused to take them in after he took the money from the house sale? Their golden child son can persuade them to a retirement home if inclined. I'm pregnant and I've recently had an almost obsessive urge to reorganize everything in my home. My library is one of the places I felt I needed to change up ASAP. So I asked my husband multiple times if he would help me as my shelves are pretty high and I have a lot of books that are heavy to move. He kept telling me he would help me later as he was busy. It felt like later was never coming, so I finally decided to just do it myself while my husband was working. My in-laws came to visit us and they walked in on me, grabbing books from the higher shelves. They thought what I was doing was dangerous and I could have fallen. My husband also freaked out, telling me to get down and saying I shouldn't carry heavy things. My father-in-law asked me why I hadn't asked someone else to move my books for me, and I told him I did ask my husband, but he wouldn't help me. He did try to correct them that he said he would help me later, but his parents told him off for not doing it for me. He thinks I made him look bad to his parents and is upset that I didn't correct them because I didn't wait for him to reorganize my library. We kept arguing because I told him he didn't help and that I didn't want his help anymore and that I would finish the library myself. Am I the idiot? Edit, I know I could do it myself. I only asked him because I knew that he, and everyone else, would be upset if I did it myself. He was busy, but not so busy that he couldn't have helped me for about an hour. I waited almost 2 weeks. You are the idiot. It sounds like you admit your husband was in fact busy and just felt like he should have reprioritized to help you with the library, but it actually wasn't urgent. It was only urgent to you. If you were tired of waiting and wanted to do it yourself, that's fine, but going around and telling his parents it's because he refused to help you was an idiot move. Despite what the general populace seems to think, pregnant women are not invalids, and if you paced yourself and were careful, you were likely completely fine doing the work yourself. Are you suggesting over the course of 2 weeks, he couldn't have found an hour or two here or there to help? Unlikely. Timeline matters. He said he'd do it. After 2 weeks, I stopped believing the help was coming. She was totally fine doing the work herself. It was everyone else who was freaking out. She just explained why she was doing it alone. He looked bad because he made himself look bad. OP's not the idiot. So what I'm hearing is that she asked him for help. He didn't do it in her preferred time frame, so she did it herself. Her in-laws asked why he wasn't helping, and she told them. And somehow she's the bad guy for not lying so that her husband's parents wouldn't be ashamed of their BS son who can't take a few minutes out of his day for multiple weeks to help his heavily pregnant wife move a couple of books. It's not like she wandered around complaining. She just did the crap she wanted to be done, and when his parents asked why he wasn't helping, she told them why. Agreed. I don't think OP went around telling anybody anything. She was being chastised like a child for climbing up a ladder and doing something she wanted to be done. OP, I would just tell my husband, I'm not some child to whom you can summarily dismiss a request by responding with some indefinite later and fail to follow up or revisit after numerous requests. Later is not an answer. Can we do it Sunday afternoon is an answer? My husband, 34 male, and I, 32 female, have a toddler son. About a year ago, our son was in daycare and both my husband and I were working full-time. But we started having many issues with our daycare and felt they needed to do more to work with us on those issues. Eventually, we had a last straw and pulled him out of that center for about 2 to 3 weeks. We took turns staying home with him while we tried to find a new daycare. But everywhere was either fully booked, too far away, or not what we were looking for. We're on a waiting list for our top 2 picks, but they don't expect openings until early next year. That led to a hard conversation about what we're going to do. We ended up deciding together that I would remain at work and my husband would stay home with our son. This is because of multiple factors. First, my job gives better benefits, including our insurance. It also pays more and offers more upward mobility. I work in a highly competitive corporate environment and it can be very stressful. That stress is made even worse by being the sole provider for our household. As a result, I feel constant pressure to perform well at work. To decompress after work, I use my company's gym facilities at our offices. This usually takes me 30 to 60 minutes, depending on my workout. It's also a huge boost to my self-esteem because I'm still working towards getting my pre-birth body back. My husband has started to complain about staying at work later to work out. I've explained to him that I use that time to decompress so that when I get home, I'm in full mommy/wife mode. So I don't want to rush home and still be thinking about work, but he feels it's inconsiderate of me to take time for myself nearly every day when he doesn't get that same opportunity. This past weekend, it turned into a fight because he commented about it again and I told him that I would not change my routine. I told him it's the easiest way for me to work out and it doesn't add that much time to me being out of the house since I can work out at my office. I told him that I'm constantly stressed at work and working out before I get home allows me to relieve that stress. So when I get home, I'm fully present. I also reminded him that hopefully we can get our son back into daycare in a few months and that this is all short term. I give him plenty of time to himself on weekends, so it's not like he never has time for himself. I told him the stress of being the sole provider is a huge burden that I feel every day and my workout routine is the biggest thing that helps me cope with that. He told me that I was being selfish and that I may be a good provider, but I'm a crap mother and wife. I told him that was by far the meanest thing he'd ever said to me, and all he said was, "Sometimes the truth hurts." He refused to apologize and didn't understand why I needed that time for myself. So am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Full wife mommy mode, getting home at 7 p.m. to a toddler, for what, about an hour? Get a grip. You are being selfish. You could get home earlier, spend time with your family, and work out after the baby's asleep. You are the idiot. For your refusal to compromise or communicate effectively here, it will not benefit you to qualify how competitive or stressful your job is in relation to your husband's job, staying home and caring for your child. Do not discount the immense effort required to spend all day with a toddler. This is an incredibly stressful time in marriages, and you both will be required to compromise. Work out a couple of days a week at your office, and then maybe get a running stroller and take the kids out for a run on the other days. Disagree. OP's not the idiot. As soon as you get home, letting him rest is more than fair, because raising a child is a full-time job too. That also means you must make time for yourself aside from work and family, and you find the most efficient way. Also, 30 to 60 minutes sounds reasonable too. It's not like going for a 3-hour walk or run every day. Your husband resents that he must stay home and play the homemaker. Simple as that. Every time you don't rush home to be of service to him and take over the childcare is proof to him that he's the victim of this arrangement. Women who earn more than their partners statistically do more housework to appease the fragile egos of their husbands. Don't let yourself be bullied and get your hour of much-needed self-care. I, 27, female, have lupus. For those who don't know, it's a chronic autoimmune condition. It causes a variety of symptoms. One of my many symptoms is that I have very stubborn red rashes on my face, arms, and chest. From an outsider's perspective, they just look like really severe acne. I'm quite self-conscious about them, but I try not to let my skin stop me from wearing what I want or being in photos. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, my parents held a family dinner. My brother, 30, has a wife, Kat, 29. Unfortunately, over the years, Kat has become your stereotypical crunchy Pinterest mom. I don't dislike Kat as a person, but this situation has gotten me very angry at her. So at the dinner, the conversation topic turns to babies and children. Kat starts talking about how she's so glad she can make liquid gold, breast milk, and starts talking about how she puts leftover breast milk in her body lotion, and it gets rid of her stretch marks, and goes on about how it's a magical cure for everything. In the middle of her talking, Kat starts making really uncomfortable eye contact with me, and I can see she keeps looking at my rashes. Finally, Kat points out the rashes on my face and says to everyone that she'll offer me some breast milk to get rid of my acne. I told Kat it was not acne and asked her to stop talking about it. For context, I didn't start having symptoms until my early 20s, and my family's still skeptical about my diagnosis and think there's nothing wrong with me, so no one else defended me. Kat wouldn't drop it and told me I had nothing to be ashamed of and to just take her breast milk and to trust the process. So I politely declined and said that I was pretty sure her breast milk won't make it better and I was sure she could find a better use for it. Kat still wouldn't let it go and went on and on about this miracle cure and how powerful it is and how it'll restore my skin, and started blabbering about some woman on Instagram curing her eczema with breast milk. I lost my temper. I told her to screw off and that her bodily fluids wouldn't cure my autoimmune disease, and told her to keep her milk to herself. Kat started yelling at me and called me an ungrateful witch, then started crying, and my brother took her to another room and comforted her. My parents were really mad and told me to leave and said that I needed to learn how to be nice and act like an adult. So am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your family is idiotic and definitely idiots. No one presents symptoms such as yours without accompanying emotional issues. How's it possible that anyone could subject you to the abuse you get is horrifying to me. Lupus is a serious medical condition for which there's no cure. I would cut this whole family out of my life if possible, but if not, take mom and dad to a doctor's appointment so they can be taught about it and told it's real by someone professional, since they seem not to believe OP. Heck, take breast milk mommy too. They'll tell her what she's offering is not going to help and may even cause further harm. But she was just trying to help. She made doctor friends on the internet, and it's a fact that breast milk is a cure-all. AIDS, Alzheimer's, marriage, happy family gatherings. Don't be so close-minded. Notify your parents that Kat is the one that needs to behave like an adult and listen when you tell her no the first time. She was entirely out of line to keep pushing you. My female 31, sister 23 moved in with me and my husband 29 a week ago. She doesn't contribute money, but does a lot of house chores to compensate for it. She cooked, cleaned, organized, vacuumed, etc. I was at work yesterday and found that she'd done my husband's laundry. I was stunned as I felt this was not her place, nor was it appropriate because I always do his laundry. And more importantly, I didn't think it was appropriate for her to look at his underwear. She downplayed the whole thing, saying it was no big deal and that I was struggling with work and the kids and she wanted to help me by doing the laundry. I told her she shouldn't have done it, but my husband didn't react and she used that to support her argument, saying no one thinks it's a big deal except me. We argued and she shut me down and then started crying, saying she meant well and was trying to help out, but I couldn't help but think that this was not her place. My husband told me to drop it, but I couldn't shake this weird feeling I got. He told me I should apologize to her for berating her, but I refused. Ooh la la, calm down there, Marie Antoinette. Your feelings don't excuse your behavior in this case. She was trying to help. You could have asked her not to do it again. No need to berate her, especially as she's been helping out with many other chores. She was just continuing the theme and crossed an invisible line by accident in the effort. You owe her an apology for projecting your weird taboos and insecurities on her. OP, you are the idiot. OMG, right? Ugh, I'd be more than happy to let anyone do our laundry. I hate doing laundry. Well, okay, I hate folding clothes more than I hate doing laundry. If my sister lived with us and she offered to do our laundry, I'd worship her, not scold her for it, lol. Take a deep breath, repeat as necessary, it's just clothes. You should be thankful that your guest is trying to compensate for your generosity by doing chores, rather than being lazy and doing nothing. You are the idiot, and you really should apologize. You're making nothing into a huge. Growing up, it was no secret. My older sister was the favorite child. We could both do something bad and only I would get into trouble. They would often say I forced her to do it. My sister also got better gifts than me. I couldn't ask for anything over $20 while my sister could ask for something in the hundreds and they'd get it for her. Eventually, my sister caught on and used this to her advantage. She would blame me for everything and our parents would believe her. If she wanted something of mine, she would cry to our parents and they would force me to give it to her. It wasn't all bad because while I wasn't my parents' favorite, I was my aunt's favorite. She couldn't have kids, so she treated me as her own. But unfortunately, my aunt moved 2 hours away to work at a college and I didn't see her as much. When the time came, I went to the college my aunt worked at. She let me move in with her and helped me out financially. My sister never went to college and job hopped. She never had to take work seriously because our parents took care of everything for her. So when I left, I went no contact with them because I had no reason to interact with them. They weren't supporting me emotionally or financially, so what was the point? Now I have my own apartment, good friends, a cat, and a good job. I was happy with my life. Recently, I got a call from my dad. Apparently, they're having a hard time. My sister can't keep a job, my dad is working fewer hours, and my mother's new job pays significantly less, so they can't support all three of them. He asked if my sister could stay with me to lighten their load. I said no, I'm happy now and getting involved with all of you will make me miserable. You guys didn't do much for me when I was young, so I don't owe them anything. My dad tried to plead with me, saying that they could lose the house and end up homeless. I still refused and hung up. Since then, I've been getting calls and texts from them begging me for help. I do feel kind of bad because from their calls, I can tell that they're close to tears. My aunt says I have every right not to want to help, but every time I hear how bad they're doing, I feel guilty. I don't want them to be homeless, but I don't want to get involved. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Okay, so they spoiled your sister rotten, and now she's an entitled mooch. That's entirely on them, and they went years never reaching out to you or trying to repair your relationship, then reach out only because they need something from you. It tells you how important you are to them. I don't think this is just about financial problems either. I think this is their desperate attempt to unload your sister onto someone else. If it was just about money, they'd ask for some money, or they'd force your sister to get a job to cover her share. My goodness, between the three of them, there's absolutely no reason whatsoever for them not to be able to keep a roof over their heads. If you absolutely insist on helping, I wouldn't, then offer a set amount of money and say that it's on the condition that they don't contact you again about this matter. Of course, you don't want them to be homeless, but if they end up homeless, it will be entirely due to their own crappy choices. They should probably sell the house and get a smaller house that's cheaper to live in. This is no different than when you were 12. You have something your sister wants, money and housing. Give it to her now. Screw that. Their predicament, while unfortunate, was completely predictable. Any idiot could have seen this coming from a mile away. Spoil one kid rotten, never expect anything of them, and of course they turn out useless. Time for sister to grow up. Exactly. They didn't ask for money. They asked for your sister, the favorite, who expects you always to receive the short end of the stick, to move in with you, i.e. you get to provide for the princess now. That sounds like intentionally signing yourself up to be tortured. Your parents made their choices. Now they're not enjoying the consequences of the choices. Update. Thank you to everyone who responded and gave me advice. My aunt is going around and collecting money from some family members. I gave a small amount, not enough where I have to cut back or go without. My aunt is helping my sister find a job and said she would help out with groceries until they're back on their feet. And if my sister leaves that job, she'll stop helping. They will be on their own. I block them on everything I have and I'm not worrying. With the help they're getting, if they're still trying to contact me, they aren't as bad off as they say they are and are probably trying to make things easier for them by taking care of their problems. My boyfriend, Alex, 29, and I, 25, the female, have been together for almost 2 years. He has a tight friend group with his best friends being Jeff and Chris, 20s male, plus a handful of other people of various genders. I've been getting to know his friend group and though Jeff and Chris aren't my favorites, I get along with everyone, especially Carrie, 20s female. Recently, Carrie and I hung out alone for the first time and I had a great time. She's cool, funny, super smart, and fun to be around. I already liked her, but now I feel like we could really be friends versus me just being her friend's girlfriend. When I got home, I was gushing about my girl crush on Carrie and Alex said he liked her too and that he actually used to have a crush on her too. I asked her if he ever asked her out and he basically said, "Are you kidding?" Jeff and Chris would never let me hear the ends of it. The thing is that Carrie's overweight. I think she's beautiful and so does Alex, but as we talked, he basically said he never asked her out even though she liked him too because he didn't want to deal with Jeff and Chris mocking him for dating a fat girl. I got quiet and he needled me for a while to ask why I was upset, and I finally told him that I didn't realize he was such a coward that he'd pass up dating someone because of what the guys think. I just thought he was more of an independent thinker and maybe kind enough to stop that kind of teasing about their friend. Carrie's their friend too. He was really upset and offended, and my two best friends are now saying I'm overreacting, and I don't understand how it is for guys, but I barely understand why he'd want to be friends with people that cruel, let alone let them get in the way of his own happiness. Not the idiot. Wow, that's honestly depressing to hear. I'm a bigger woman and my husband is tall and slim. I'd be horrified to hear that his friends judge me or us on my size. Your fella is a bit cowardly if he thought she was beautiful and liked her and let their pathetic superficial idiots decide who he should like and date. And it's extra sad that he's still friends with these judgy idiots. I bet neither of them is a future male model. He's almost 30. Time for him to think for himself and pick better people to be around. And honestly, if I were you, I would be seriously questioning if I want this relationship to continue. He and his two friends sound like awful judgmental people. That's like dating someone who yells at customer service people. It says something about their character. Not gonna lie, this would be a deal breaker for me. I don't need the boys interfering in his future decisions. OP, you're right. Also, Kiri deserves better friends. I'm hoping that you two become BFFs and skip off into the sunset together, leaving those shallow losers behind. So my 22 female cousin Becky, 22 female, got married over New Year's. When Becky's fiancé asked for my uncle's permission, my uncle offered my grandma's engagement ring. She died when we were 3 because he thought that he had the ring. The ring had already passed through 2 generations to get to my grandmother, so he wanted to continue the tradition. The ring wasn't willed to anyone, nor did she verbally say who she wanted the ring to go to, as far as I'm aware. But my uncle thought that he had it because he was the oldest brother. Anyway, it turns out that after my grandma died and the process of clearing out her flat and stuff, my dad ended up with her engagement ring and wedding band. During the global issue lockdowns, we were having a clear out to see what we could donate to charity shops, and we found the rings with some of my grandma's other stuff in the attic. I asked my dad if I could have the engagement ring because I think it's pretty, emerald and diamond. So I paid to have the ring cleaned, replated, and the settings checked. I now wear the ring fairly regularly because since starting my career after uni, I've started to wear more jewelry because it's a simple way of looking more put together and polished. My uncle, aunt, and cousin, were both only children, had been hunting around their house for this ring since late October, and Becky's fiancé proposed with some costume jewelry. My parents and I didn't know about any of this at the time. Over the weekend, Becky had her engagement party. I wore the ring, not thinking much of it because it went with what I was wearing, a green velvet jumpsuit. Of course, Becky and my uncle recognized the ring right away, accusing my dad of stealing it from under them when my grandma died. He was there first, and my parents did the majority of the packing because she lived closer to us. They accused me of wearing it just to spite them, telling me that I ruined the evening and demanding that I give them the ring. I told them that I didn't know they were looking for the ring, and if they had mentioned it to me or my parents, we could have told them I had the ring. I don't want to give her the ring because I consider it my ring. It ended up with my dad, and he gave it to me. I paid for it to be resized, cleaned, replated, settings fixed. It's my favorite, most worn piece of jewelry because I like how it looks and the sentimental value of it being my grandma's because I don't really remember her, so it helps me feel connected to her, and my grandma expressed no preference to who the ring went to. They argue that Becky should get the ring because she's the daughter of the eldest son. My aunt is the only girl and currently has no children or plans to get married, and Becky got engaged first, so she should get the ring for that. Am I the idiot for not giving my cousin my grandmother's engagement ring? Not the idiot. If he didn't know he didn't have the ring for 19 years, he doesn't deserve the heirloom, and not mentioning the missing item to his own brother shows his narcissism of being the eldest. Finally, no will? Finders keepers, sister. Keep wearing it in good faith. Tell us you're a thief without telling us you're a thief, LMAO. No will does not mean finders keepers. We need info here on how that went down because it sounds like OP's dad found these valuable heirlooms in a box and pocketed them without ever telling his brother. Uncle thought he had them because that's how it usually goes, and OP uses this passive. My dad ended up with them the whole time, when it seems like her dad went out of his way to conceal the fact that he circumvented the family rules of passing on an heirloom to keep not just the wedding band, but the engagement ring too for himself. I think everyone's the idiot here. Your uncle just assumed he had it when he should have checked. From your post, it appears that at least your dad and his brother both knew what the ring looked like, what it signified, and how it was intended to be used. But your dad didn't say anything when you guys found it. He just lets you have it and use it as regular everyday jewelry. So now you've put the time and money into it as an individual piece rather than a family heirloom, which isn't really an idiot move. You didn't know what was up, but basically ended the tradition, which is apparently sad for the rest of the family. My friend Haley has everything, her own flat, a car, and a well-paying job, and she goes on at least 2 to 3 foreign holidays with her husband per year. Meanwhile, I have to rent, haven't been abroad in probably 10 years, and almost live paycheck to paycheck. She's my oldest friend, and our differences haven't caused any problems in the past. But now that our country's heading into a recession, she has started to be a bit too much. Every time we meet, she complains about money, how everything is so expensive. They'll probably only go abroad once next year and have to vacation in our own country during the summer. How she has no idea how they'll be able to upgrade their flat to a bigger one in the future, and they have so much debt. Oh, and now her husband must take the bus to work because gas is too expensive. Poor thing. I had enough when she was talking about not knowing how they'll be able to afford a baby in this economy. I told her that I was sick of her constant whining about not being even richer, not having one extra room in her flat, and only going to Barcelona for 4 days next year. Meanwhile, my boyfriend and I won't even have a Christmas tree this year and will probably just skip Christmas altogether. She told me she had no idea that I think of her like this, and she could lend me some money if I needed it, then proceeded to play the victim, telling me that she's not rich at all. She lives in the same world as I do, and inflation is affecting her too. How is she not rich at all, but has no problems lending me money? I told her that our struggles were not the same, and her comparing them to each other was a slap in the face. This was a few days ago, and I have calmed down a bit since then. Everything I said was true, but now I'm thinking I might have been a bit too harsh on Haley, and maybe she truly is just too privileged to see my point and can't help it. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. I cannot stand people who play the trauma Olympics, unless you've seen their bank statements and bills and investments and everything else. You really have no idea what their financial situation is. It just sounds like you're jealous that they do all this stuff when you can't. It sucks that you're having financial troubles, but that doesn't mean that her financial struggles are any less stressful. And for you to minimize and disregard her feelings makes you a bad friend. Meanwhile, my boyfriend and I won't even have a Christmas tree this year, and will probably just skip Christmas altogether. Wake up. A lot of people won't even have food today, let alone on Christmas. Disagree? OP is not the idiot. You gave a reality check. It's the only check she can't cash, and that's why she's upset. Like you said, she has a good lifestyle and doesn't have to worry about where her next meal comes from or how to cover rent that month. She's out of touch to complain about going on fewer vacations. I would have snapped too. My fiancé, 25 male, has braces. He refused to get them when he was a child and teen because he feared people would make fun of him, but he finally accepted to get them after the dentist told him clearly that it wouldn't recommend to replace his extracted teeth till he fixes his crooked ones. The issue is that our wedding was supposed to be coming up soon, but now I plan to postpone till my fiancé gets rid of his braces. I have nothing against him wearing braces. I even encouraged him to finally get them to fix his bad teeth. But did you ever see a groom wearing braces in his wedding photos? I don't think so. I thought my fiancé would be understanding, but instead he got mad at me and accused me of being ashamed of him. That's obviously not true. I just want our wedding photos to be as aesthetically pleasing as possible, and that's why I want to postpone our wedding till his braces come off. I also told him he could have avoided all of this if he got invisible braces. Still, he said that those were much more expensive. He wanted to save money specifically for our wedding and honeymoon, and he didn't think his fiancée would be so shallow to care about it. He ended up saying that if I postpone the wedding now, I might as well just call it off altogether, which I think is incredibly unfair of him to do. But maybe I should have insisted on this issue either. Am I the idiot? Holy heck, you are the idiot. OP, he didn't get braces as a child because he didn't want to be made fun of, so he gets them as an adult at the encouragement of his fiancée. Then that same fiancé uses his braces as a reason to postpone the wedding because of how his braces will look in the photos. That is so much worse than being bullied as a child for having braces. Kids are stupid and mean and don't have a reason to support you. But as an adult, your fiancé shouldn't be treating you worse. At least you've revealed to your fiancé how shallow you are. He should postpone the wedding until you mature. You ever saw a groom wearing braces in his wedding photos? I don't think so. I want our wedding to be as aesthetically pleasing as possible. She proves him right. She's basically calling him ugly and willing not to marry him until she can get the perfect picture. I wouldn't blame the fiancé if he eventually walked away. OP seems to value having pretty pictures more than starting her marriage and her overall relationship. It's simple. She's still emotionally immature and wants a wedding, not a marriage. Aesthetics are important because it's about the show. If it were about just being with this guy forever, she'd realize his mental health and self-esteem are worth more than her desire to have the perfect wedding pictures. OP is an idiot and her fiancé's new bully. Could you imagine if the dude was like, I'm postponing the wedding until you lose 25 pounds so the pictures look good? Holy heck, he could have avoided this crap wedding by not proposing to a shallow. I, male 27, was devastated when my brother died 4 years ago. He was a big part of my life, and I didn't know how to handle it at the time. Instead of opening up about my trauma, I started pushing everyone around me away and lost motivation. The real nail in the coffin was when I was let go from my job after the company struggled financially. I was almost 24 at the time. I was broke, had a mild alcohol problem, and was legitimately depressed. I was humiliated to tell anyone about losing my job, and I was couch surfing for a bit. Finally, my sister-in-law, 34, and the mother of my nephew and niece found out about my situation. I moved in with her and my nephew and niece after she told me I could stay with her until I figured out stuff. She told me I could pay her back by babysitting the kids and giving them rides to school until I found a job. It ended up being helpful staying with her. She pitied me and saw a younger version of my brother in me. She took care of me and helped me deal with many of my emotional issues. She always lent a shoulder to cry on, and she was like the sister I never had. To be clear, there was never any romantic or physical aspect to our relationship. She was just helping out someone she saw her husband in. I saw her as the big sister I never had. I ended up staying with her for nearly 2 years. Well, I never told my parents I was living with her. They assumed the worst when I told my parents that I was living with her. They assumed I was involved with her, then without asking or consulting with me. They told everyone. I tried to do damage control, but they ruined my reputation. My immediate and extended family treated me like a monster for a while and acted like I betrayed my brother. Eventually, I convinced them that there was no dating and that she was just helping me out. I never forgave my parents for this. Since then, I've moved out. My sister-in-law and I decided it was best for me to find my own place. Shortly after finding a place, I met my girlfriend. We've been dating for a year and a half now. Last month, we found out she's pregnant. It's been an emotional roller coaster. We decided that she was moving in with me. We're going to start our family together. My parents have wanted to meet my girlfriend, and I don't want them to be involved in my kid's life. I know it's a little selfish not to want them involved, but they ruined my life at one point. Last night, they called me wanting an explanation for why I've been so distant. I explained and they blew up on me. They claim I'm holding a grudge over a misunderstanding. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Why the heck did they jump to the worst case scenario and proceed to spread that crap to others instead of talking to you about it first? That's extremely toxic. They haven't even asked for forgiveness. They just assumed you'd all act like it never happened and they could move on without apologizing. And if on the tiniest chance this was grief and misplaced anger and an honest mistake, what exactly have they done to atone and to clear OP's good name? Besides, doesn't sound like they supported their daughter-in-law and grandkids after their son's death either. So, that whole family supporting family, that's going great, isn't it? I'd also inform your girlfriend what went down so they can't contact her and try to get to see the grandkid that way. They're too likely to portray you as being spiteful and them as victims who only made a teensy-weensy mistake. Way too many people with good relationships with their parents don't understand the need for zero contact with crap parents. You're not holding a grudge over a misunderstanding. You're holding a grudge over how they responded to that misunderstanding. If they don't understand how badly they treated you, let alone feel apologetic, I wouldn't want to keep them in my life either. There was no misunderstanding. There was intentional slander. Your parents don't sound like good people and you should keep them away from your new family. This may sound harsh, but what if they don't like your parenting? Are they going to tell everyone you abuse your kid? You have to keep stuff like that in mind. They don't ask questions. They just speak, not even caring about the potential consequences. And that can and will cause problems. You have every right to keep them away from your new little family. Congratulations and good luck. My parents divorced when I was 5 because my dad cheated on my mom with Emma. The divorce was pretty damn awful for me. I remember my dad being angry that my mom was exposing his affair to the courts and attempting to get primary custody with him every other weekend. My mom was pretty wrecked by what dad did. I remember a lot of sadness and crying as well as some anger. My dad and Emma moved in together during the divorce and I still remember how he introduced Emma to me and how messed up it was. He told me he loved Emma and wanted me to love Emma too and let her be my mom and how she would be such a good mom too. Emma was all about asking me to be her daughter and stuff. Then at their house, I would hear them saying that my mom was trying to hurt them and was being mean. My mom sat me down during the whole thing and told me that she and my dad didn't like each other anymore. And she and Emma also had problems. But she told me that I could feel however I wanted to. She didn't want me to dislike anyone for her sake. She told me so I was aware of why certain things wouldn't be happening going forward and why she might be quieter around them. But it was okay for me to like and love and be happy with them and never be afraid to show that. It took a few months for me to want to try, but it quickly ended because Emma started introducing herself as my mom. This was before the divorce was even finalized. I did spend an equal amount of time with both parents for a few years. But when I was 12, I chose to live with my mom. A couple of years before, Emma got pregnant and lost the baby and almost died. It made Emma infertile. And I remember my dad telling me about it and how she would need me more than ever. I think Emma held on to some hope that growing up would make me feel different about her and she would experience some of the more fun mom stuff with me someday. But I just tolerate her and my dad. And it's hard some days. They never stopped hating my mom and saying it around me. Now I'm engaged and already I have the venue decided, invitations picked out, dress purchased, bridesmaid's dress bought, and I even did the flowers and went shopping with my mom for her outfit. I also asked my mom to walk me down the aisle and do a mom-daughter dance with me. I have not included Emma in anything. And when I told my dad I had asked my mom to do the dance and walk with me, Emma burst into tears and ran off, according to him. They say I should have carved out a space for her in all this. That after her never being able to carry her child, I should be trying to include her more. And the lack of a special place for her makes me an idiot. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your father and Emma both contributed to ruining your mother's marriage. They had an affair. They spoke bad things about her. And they expected you to have a good relationship with the woman who mistreats your mom. You're not Emma's replacement child. It's their fault that you don't have a relationship with her. And let's be honest. If she could have a child, she wouldn't be bothering you. You are allowed not to have a relationship with her. You don't have any responsibility to deal with her feelings and pretend that the last didn't happen. They not only destroyed the marriage, but tried to alienate Opie from her mom. I'm glad Opie and her mom are close. Emma and Dad sound like they're lucky to even be invited. You're not obligated to carve out a space for Dad's wife, who doesn't even show your mom basic courtesies and still bat-mouths her. The old saying, "You've made your bed, so lie in it," comes to mind here. Your father destroyed you and your mom's life by not keeping it in his pants. And now he's angry that your life isn't going exactly the way he planned. I hope you and your mom dance with all the love in your hearts, enjoying your moment. Your father and his other woman will have to overcome it. My children, 18 male, and teen female, are all extremely talented. My eldest is a ballet dancer. The second is an athletic swimmer. And the third is a violin genius. I'm so proud of them and their achievements. I have photos, medals, trophies, etc. all over the house. I don't think this is weird or anything out of the ordinary. My mother's visiting and nothing significant happened. So my husband and I decided to take the kids out. We asked my mom if she wanted to come, but she said she was tired and wanted to rest. When we returned, we noticed a framed photo of my eldest son on stage, plus a few of his dance medals, 2 of my second son's swim meet medals, and another framed photo of my daughter playing violin in one of her certificates were all gone. My mom quickly admitted that she took them down because she felt like I was showing off too much, and we were coming off as obsessed and snobby. Apparently, we're being taggy. To make matters worse, she decided to make fun of my eldest son for doing ballet as well. My husband asked her if she was being serious, but she just told us that she'd give the things back once she left. I started laughing in disbelief and told her to give the things back immediately as she was leaving now. She was upset. She gasped and told me that I had no right to kick her out as her daughter and I was being disrespectful. But I told her that she was the one who disrespected me by doing something so ridiculous. I mean, who does that? My mom left and did give back the things she hid, but cursed my husband and me the whole time. She even made a Facebook post about how disrespectful and ungrateful children are. My sister is horrified that I kicked her out as she's our mother, older and a woman in an unfamiliar town. But my mom always travels, so I don't know why it's such a big deal. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. What your mother did was extremely disrespectful and controlling. She had no right to take your things or insult you, and especially your son. She owes your entire family an apology. You should limit contact with her until she gives you that apology. You remove someone from your home when they disrespected your home and children. Moms don't get a pass to be cruel just because they're your mom. What did she think would be the result of her actions? That they would genuflect and tell her she's absolutely right and beg her to bestow the blessings of her wisdom? Even though I loved my mother dearly, I would have driven her to a motel to get her out of my house if she dared to do something so disrespectful to my family. I believe your home should be your sanctuary, the place in the world where you feel safest and most able to be yourself. Anyone violates that sanctuary for me, my husband, or my children, and they're out. Your mother sounds like a small, jealous person. She doesn't deserve to stay in your home. No sane grandparent would be upset that their grandchildren are talented. She's got a few screws loose up there. Do what restaurants do. Glue or screw everything down and put it on permanent display, then invite her back. I wish my parents celebrated my accomplishments half as much. My mother-in-law, 58, loves my 28th female garden. However, she sneaks into it and loves to read books, have picnics, and pick flowers too. I'm perfectly fine with this. It's just that my dog, who will be called Diego, also loves being in the garden. He poops, plays, runs around, and lays in the garden. Again, this would be fine. It's just that mother-in-law is allergic to dogs. I tell her I'm letting Diego out to play or use the restroom, but she refuses to leave, saying that dog can wait or I'm allergic. Stuff like that. My husband doesn't mind having the dog use the grass mat in the sunroom, but it's become a problem when the whole room smells like dog poop. So, I let my dog go outside to do his business to combat this. Mother-in-law hates this. I explained the situation and told her she's no longer welcome if my dog is a health concern for her. She went insane. She started screaming and yelling, saying she's entitled to be in the garden. I told her to leave. The following day, I went to go feed Diego when I realized I couldn't find him. I frantically searched everywhere, but still, Diego was gone. I called my husband, who's been in Florida the past week, to see if the cameras we have outside caught anything. I'm stupid and don't know the password to access them. And he said that Dee got in the car with mother-in-law and they sped off. I was angry. I hopped in my car and drove to mother-in-law's house to see what happened. And apparently, she took my dog to the pound. This psycho stole my dog and drove it to a pound, 30 minutes away. I called the pound and the police. The next thing I knew, I was being yelled at by all of my relatives on social media and thinking of pressing charges. Edit, for those wondering, yes, I did get Diego back. He's happily sleeping on the couch. You would not be the idiot if you pressed charges. She earned them. You would not be the idiot if you got a restraining order forcing your mother-in-law to stay 200 yards away from your home. She earned that too. It is your home, your dog's home. It's not her home. Absolutely this. I'm so furious on your behalf. Press charges and get a restraining order. She is way past boundary setting. Also, it's strange that the 30-minute drive to the pound with the dog didn't cause any allergy problems. But if the dog is peeing in the same garden with her, it's unbearable. Holy cow, I hadn't even realized it. But she fakes being allergic if she had no trouble spending 30 minutes plus the return in the same car in a very enclosed space with the dog. I think mother-in-law doesn't like dogs or just wants to mark her territory. Not the idiot in any way, shape, or form. Your mother-in-law is not entitled to your garden. It's your property, not hers. And what she did was literally theft, an actual crime, a criminal offense. You have every right to be angry. And if you want to press charges, you're well within your rights. But again, I can't overstate how strongly you are not the idiot. I got married recently and it was a beautiful day. We considered not inviting my mother because she's not a happy, supportive person in our lives and has many issues with my wife. But ultimately, we decided to invite her just because it's a big day and her brand of crazy is very quiet and not attention-seeking. I take my wife's side almost all of the time and definitely every time in front of my mother. But one thing my wife does that drives me crazy is nitpicking my mother's clothing and assuming there's always a subliminal message. For example, She was offended by what she wore to the rehearsal dinner because the dress had small cutouts on the side. But one of her bridesmaids wore a fancier crop top and skirt combo, and she wasn't offended by that. She was also bothered by the headband my mom wore to our engagement dinner because it was more bejeweled than the ring, and my mother-in-law ripped it off my mom's head and tried it on. Anyway, my mom wore black to our wedding. I've never even heard of that being a taboo thing. My dad got married a couple of years ago and the bridesmaid dresses were black. My wife said it was offensive because it was a funeral color, but my mom was wearing a nice lacy one-sleeve cocktail dress, not something drab like you would wear to a funeral. She asked me to ask her to either change or leave. I might be the idiot because she was the bride and it was her day, but I said no. I explained that I don't think she did that on purpose, and while I know she's been a jerk in the past, I think she would have warned that even if she liked us. My wife was understandably hurt and felt that I didn't have her back on our big day. I even offered to pay to have the color changed in photos, though thankfully my mom just disappeared during family pictures because she either didn't want to be in them or assumed she wasn't wanted. Not the idiot. I've worn black dresses cocktail style to weddings. It's not like your mom wore a mourning veil and covered herself head to toe like a Victorian widow. I think your wife is oversensitive due to past history and sees insults even when there aren't any. I immediately thought of a white or ivory formal gown that might be confused for a wedding dress. A fancy black lace cocktail dress is the standard choice for anyone attending a wedding, even the mother of the groom. OP owes his mom an apology and an honest conversation with his wife about her attitude towards OP's mom. There was probably some prior misunderstanding or problems, but those need to be addressed or OP will be caught in the middle for the rest of their lives. However, I think there is a reason your mom doesn't support your relationship. In this case, it sounds like a bratty daughter and her mom are involved. Your mother-in-law was rude at the rehearsal, and if your mom is wearing something just as fancy as others involved in the wedding, your wife is looking for a reason to hurt her, and it's just as much your day as your wife's. If your mom was being appropriate, you should have gotten to enjoy your mom being there. I bet it hurt she couldn't have pictures with her son